House of Fins. My name is Danny and I'm going to walk you through some of the really cool things we have in this week. First up, we have the Radiata Lionfish. This really pretty little guy. He's going to max out at around like 8 inches. He can be found all throughout South Africa and Northern Australia. The Radiata Lionfish is a nocturnal feeder, so they're not going to be very active during the day. They can also be pretty difficult to feed in captivity. You definitely want to start them off with some live food and then try and weed them onto frozen food. They would definitely like to be kept away from tank mates that are highly aggressive to avoid them picking away at the fins on them. You definitely want to keep those long flowy fins intact because that's really, what makes them beautiful. Aggressive tank mates would qualify as being something like triggers, pufferfish, some angelfish will definitely try picking at their fins. Another neat little tidbit about them is that these are the only lionfish species to have no markings on their spines, which is pretty cool. Alrighty, next up we have the Grasingerai Goby. This is easily one of, if not the most sought after of the sand sifting or sleeper gobies. You're gonna find this guy throughout the Western Pacific, mostly Japan and the Philippines. They're obviously a reef-safe species. They can be found in pairs in the wild, which is pretty interesting. And there's also some practicality with this species as well. They do an awesome job at sifting through the sand. That's where they're gonna find most of their food. And by doing that, they're going to turn the sand over and make sure that the sand isn't going to stay stagnant as to prevent anything from building up on the sand bed, like things like algae, cyanobacteria, and stuff like that. So they're very useful to have around, just as well as being one of the most beautiful of the sleeper gobies. Alrighty, next up we have the candy basslet. This is a real holy grail species for a lot of people, and for good reason. This thing is absolutely beautiful. They're gonna max out around 2.5 inches. They're gonna mostly eat carnivorous food, so things like small shrimp. They're gonna absolutely love. They're gonna be a little bit shy, so if you're gonna put them in a tank, you're gonna want to make sure that there's a lot of caves in there, a lot of rock work, so they can swim around and hide between. They're gonna be solitary, so you're only gonna keep them one per tank. They're going to come from all throughout the tropical Atlantic waters, pretty much all over the Caribbean, and they're also fairly peaceful too. The reason why they're so sought after and why their price tag is so high is actually really interesting. So essentially what ends up happening is this species is found pretty deep underwater. You're going to find these guys anywhere from 250 as like the deepest you'll find them at is like 250 feet down. And essentially they'll send a submarine down with a crew, and they'll catch them, put them in a basket, and every 30 feet, they'll go up 30 feet a day, and then around that 30-foot mark, they're just gonna feed them brine shrimp, and then incrementally, 30 feet per day, and until it takes about like 2 weeks for them to get all the way to the top. And that's really why that price tag is gonna be driven up for them, it's just through that whole intensive process of getting them here. Last but most certainly not least, we have my favorite fish in the shop right now, the Grasingerai Goby. This is the true definition of a nano fish right here. They're not gonna get much bigger than what you see right here, and for reference, that's about the size of my thumbnail. They're not gonna get much bigger than around an inch. They're gonna stay super tiny. They're gonna be a little bit more on the shy side, but that's okay because when you do get to see them, they're absolutely beautiful and awesome in every way. You can find these guys all throughout Australia. Like I said, they're like the perfect nano species. You want to keep them with other small tank mates, definitely in a really small tank as well, or else you'll never see them. Some peaceful tank mates would be awesome, like other small gobies. Things like pipefish would be awesome to keep them with as well. That would actually make a really cool tank, I think. They're also pretty social too, so you could keep more than one in a tank together. They also get the name spikefin goby, and that's also because of that noticeable spiked dorsal fin that you see him showing off right there. They're gonna do that all the time, just kind of flash at each other, and it's really entertaining, and I can just sit here and watch them do that all day.
Alright everyone, thank you for tuning in for this week's video. Be sure to leave a like as well as following us on all of our social media platforms, being Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next week.